Let me share my screen with you all. All right. I hope you all can see that. Today we are discussing overcoming obstacles and the lessons from personal challenges. And of course, we will be using my AIR method to guide us through. I am Angela Williams. I am the CEO of Mental House Restoration LLC. And yes, I did register my name and everything. So it's official. Yay. All right. So let's me go to the second slide for you all. For this lesson, I have titled this lesson, If You Avoid Conflict to Keep the Peace, You Start a War Inside Yourself. And I found this quote and I thought it was so fitting of what we're going to be discussing. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. And I know if you were in Ayana's session, she was going over like some of the things, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's just I love how all of our things coincide together with each other. And it just made mine even fit even more. So if you avoid conflict to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. That is number one. And if we're going to continue our journey of restoring and fortifying our mental houses. Just like the well-maintained house, our mind needs constant care and attention to remain strong and resilient. When we avoid conflict, I kind of see it as ignoring a leaking roof or maybe a crack in your foundation. And initially, it might seem like the best thing is to keep calm and peaceful, maybe patch it up till later. You can always fix that. You can always fix that. But over time, there's significant damage to your mental health if you don't take care of that leak. So here's the AIR method and how it comes into play. Remind you that this is our blueprint for mental restoration and resilience. Okay, so the adapt. This involves recognizing and accepting the presence of the conflict in your life, just as you would adapt to your maintenance plans when you notice the leak. You need to adjust your approach to confront and manage the conflicts effectively. We move into the inner work. This step is about delving into the emotional work needed to understand and process our feelings. It's like inspecting the damage. Okay, it's not that big. Maybe I can patch it in, but making the necessary repairs within your mental health to prevent any further deterioration. So you're going to have to determine whether you can patch it up or are you going to have to actually remove it and start over and rebuild from there. Today, we're going to explore why avoiding conflict to keep the peace can start a war inside yourself. And firsthand, I know from all of my experiences how that is and how using the AIR method can help you address these conflicts constructively, ensuring your mental health remains strong and harmonious. Next slide. The definition that I found online, I forget which site I got it from, I think it was Aurora, is conflict avoidance is a strategy or behavior in which individuals or groups choose to ignore or suppress issues or disagreements rather than addressing them directly. And for firsthand, I will tell you that doing that causes so much to yourself. For number one, when you're adapting, if you avoid the conflict, it means you're failing to adapt to the reality of the situation, which can lead to internalized stress and anxiety and even dis-ease in your body if you continue to let it. So that's when the inner work comes in and the importance of it, because you have to acknowledge what that leak is, what that conflict is. You have to process it and not suppress your emotions. And because that just avoids when you don't suppress your emotions, it helps you to avoid emotional outbursts and just the chronic stress of it all. Then we move into the repeat phase of it, which is just repeating the practices of these strategies. Because handling conflict is not a one-time effort, but a continuous process of adapting, doing the inner work, and just repeating to maintain the peace both internally and externally. So I wanted to give a couple scenarios that I found quite interesting and will help lead into my story and how I resolve my conflict. So I got one for workplace, avoiding a discussion. Well, imagine you're at work and constantly being assigned extra tasks because your colleague slacks off. You choose to avoid addressing this issue to keep things smooth, but over time, you start feeling an overwhelmed, resentful effect, and it starts affecting your performance and your mental health. Here's one for, say, your family issues. In a family setting, there's a reoccurring issue like one member not contributing to household chores. Avoiding this conversation might keep the peace temporarily, but it builds frustration and tension over time, leading to potential arguments or estrangement. And if you know sadness, sadness turns into disappointment. Disappointment can go right into frustration. Frustration goes right into anger, and then you're in this tumbling ball of just arguments over not well, you had that and I didn't have that. You should put that in the dishwasher if you had it. I'm cleaning up after myself. So that's another example. A relationship example. So you're in a romantic relationship and you're avoiding talking about deferring future goals, and can lead to misunderstanding and a lack of alignment and cause feelings of disconnection and dissatisfaction. And being in a young age, being in a relationship at 18, we never, I think back, we really never discussed any of those goals. What were your goals? It was just like we were just growing up together. So that's caused a lot of disagreements and a lot of conflict in my relationship. For speaking engagement, so imagine you're preparing for a public speaking engagement and you have conflicting ideas with your co-presenter about the presentation content. Instead of discussing and resolving these differences, you avoid the conversation to keep things smooth. On the day of the presentation, the unresolved conflict leads to a disjointed and less effective presentation, causing stress and impacting your confidence. Addressing the conflict beforehand could have led to a more cohesive and successful presentation, reducing anxiety and promoting a better collaboration. Now, as far as my story of how I went into conflict, I didn't even understand that I was in conflict, that I had a conflict, until I want to say it was maybe too far into I'll explain in my story. Okay, so my birth mother, we've been estranged from each other a while, for a while. And my mother who raised me, who was my top pop's wife, she got sick, and then my birth mother started coming around. My mother who raised me, Betty, that I'll just refer to my birth mother as birth mother and Betty as my mom. Betty passed away in 2007, and I I believe, I guess in my mind I thought that I could replace Betty. So with my birth mother, because yeah, that's your mother. You got two mothers. That's awesome. So I tried to give her the same relationship that I gave Betty. And over time, it it caused me so much inner turmoil that I realized that it wasn't a healthy relationship for me to begin with, just being really, really transparent because of, I guess, all of the things that I see that she's a good lady, but she has a lot of growing up to do, and she has a lot of like internal things that she has to heal within herself. So me trying to give her that same relationship, it was causing me turmoil because I was like, okay, my mom, Betty died. She died, but I'm still trying to give you that relationship, and it's not the same because I can't give you back 40 some years of life. I can't give you back graduation time and prom time and all that. I can't do that. So in an attempt to resolve the issue with her, I just stopped communicating. Like I just kept my peace. If we saw each other, we saw each other. So one day at a family, one of my niece's her birthday party, she wouldn't talk to me. I would say, I said hi to her and I would try to get her just to keep the peace, and she just wouldn't talk to me. So she figured she was going to call me outside and want to talk to me. So when I expressed myself and I tried to explain to her, well, right now I feel like I can't give you that relationship you want. And this is what I'm just telling her, all of this. And she's just getting so upset and so upset that it just ended in her saying some mean, hurtful things, me leaving, and I just ended it at that. So the outcome, it just taught me the importance of addressing the conflict rather than avoiding it. Because if I would have addressed it sooner, even though I didn't know that this was what was going on, it would have been better for her. Because it wouldn't have caused her so much pain to be like, okay, well, you was coming and see me and talking to me and all of that, but now you don't want to. And it's just confronting the issue. I could have started that better, but it ultimately it's allowing me to heal because I did stand up for myself. And the actionable practices, I got some strategies that I learned from that incident. Is, for one, open communication, like clear, honest, and respectful communication. And it took me a while to figure out how I was going to communicate with her. And I realized that I needed to use those I statements. I needed to tell her, I feel like this. This is how I interpret this relationship. This is what I want, and keep it respectful. I just tried to keep my tone calm. And I also practice active listening, listening to her and understanding her point of view and how, but also letting her know, well, I know and I apologize for how it was perceived, but I'm starting to come into the self realization of all this also. So I'm learning right along with you. So I try to just keep it peaceful and clear with her. Number two was understanding her perspective. So I wanted to let her know, like, I don't hold anything against you from you not actually raising me. I understood how it was to be a young mother. I was a young mother, and I understood how hard it was to try to have a life and take care of kids at the same time. So I made sure that I understood her, and I wanted to seek some kind of common ground. I wanted her to understand. I want to know how we can have a relationship, but I know it's not going to be like a traditional mother-daughter relationship, because I cannot give you that. I can't give you that relationship because I feel that that relationship was Betty's relationship, and she has already passed away. The third thing is to seek solutions, of course, collaborative problem solving. At that time, we have not, and even till now, we communicate with each other when we need, when it's necessary, when we see each other. Other than that, there's like no communication on my end or her end, because she still has hurt in me not wanting her to have that mother role. And it's all about for me, it's all about the accountability and the things that she had said to me, that when that incident, when I actually expressed myself to her. So it's always, it's the strategy for seeking solutions, I would say, is identify the shared goal, which the shared goal was, we want to have some type of relationship, but now we have to figure out what that is. And brainstorming the solutions and being willing to compromise. And right now, our compromise is just to see each other when we see each other and be cordial and respect each other's peace, which brings me to promoting inner peace. And it's practicing mindfulness, self-reflection and meditating. I have to do so many deep breathing exercises this time around, being what we're dealing with my grandfather's estate and everything. So and to figure out and understand my personal triggers when I'm around her, so that my responses to the conflict that we're having aren't in a negative way or in a way that further pushes us apart. And setting boundaries, that's another one for promoting inner peace. It has helped me to figure out which boundaries I need to set with her, which are mainly like interacting with her on social media. You know how you ask somebody something, well, I don't, maybe if you don't do this, I don't really like when you did this, and this person continuously still does it. So for me, she was doing that on my social media. So I was like, okay, I need you to not, I just don't have her on my page, because it was like, that's the boundary that I had to set and communicate to her that this is off limits. And if you respect me, then you respect that, and make sure that you're enforcing those habits. All right, so to recap, I told you it wasn't going to be that long. The negative impacts of conflict avoidance, I would say, are internal turmoil. Okay, so you can lead to stress, anxiety, frustration, which can lead to disease in your body. It can lead you to act out irrationally towards the person or whatever. And then there's unresolved issues. Those issues remain unresolved, and it causes long-term dissatisfaction, and it can escalate a lot of problems. And thankfully it's hasn't escalated any problems, but it still remains unresolved to me. And I'm still working on trying to figure out how we can collaborate and communicate to what kind of relationship we can have. Like, in that another negative is that it's strained relationships, and the relationships suffer due to unaddressed tensions and misunderstandings. And I've noticed that in so many other family members also, how unaddressed tensions and misunderstandings can cause conflict that can separate a family. And you're only talking when you see each other for funerals and weddings and stuff. You're really not communicating on a long-term basis or a regular basis. The benefits of addressing conflict are improved relationships. It can lead to stronger and more respectful relationships. And I can see that in my relationship with my sister, being that my mother really never told my sister about our conversation that we had, or what was said, or any of that. So my sister didn't even know. And when I told my sister, she was like, wow, it was a whole new, um, I guess, respect for each other, because we didn't really understand. And that kind of led to a better relationship between her and I. The personal growth is also a benefit. It promotes your self-respect and your confidence and your own personal growth. I gained so much confidence in knowing and speaking up for myself. That was like the first time that I really, really was like, okay, I have to say something, because it's really causing me the harm. So now I'm able to do it more. It just brought me more confidence being able to do that. And inner peace. I know it's hard for her, and it's hard for me also, but it brought me that peace to where I can relax and be like, okay, I did everything that I could, and I said everything that I could. I shared my piece. I made it clear. I was honest, and I was respectful. So that's all I can take out of that. And hopefully we will resolve and find out how our relationship can be better, or if not, how we'll just remain where we are and coexist like that. Now, the strategies, that's what the open communication, understanding perspective, seeking solutions, and promoting inner peace. Those are the 4 strategies to actually, I found, to help resolve the conflict. I want you guys to just reflect on any conflicts that you may be avoiding and understand that avoiding the conflict is not resolving it, and it's not really helpful to you internally and externally. We may think, okay, I can take care of that later and later, but take it off of firsthand. Waiting to take care of things can cause turmoil. I believe that's really how my cancer started, is because I was actually avoiding conflict, and that's how it happened. And I wanted to end our session with this quote from Winston Churchill: "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." And I am willing to sit down and listen to my mother and hear her, but the accountability I need for it to be there, because you just can't wipe away. You can forgive, and I've forgiven her, but I'm not sure she understands the depth of what she said to me. So that's where my thing is. And I'll sit down and listen. I'm open to resolve that conflict. And I hope you all can resolve your conflict and elevate your life one air cycle at a time. And I am done. I'm going to stop sharing my. And I see Miss Michelle got her hand up already.
Hi.
Ah.
You have such a beautiful spirit. I just wanted to tell you that. Like one thing that I do appreciate about you is your meekness and your gentleness. I have learned so much dealing with situations very similar to yours, as and I just appreciate how you deliver for me, even as you're growing through it. I really appreciate it. It gives me a softer side in things, where at one time I may have been a more cold, I'm going to say. And so listening to you is so amazing. And what really blew me, because I had no intention of saying anything, our lives are so similar, Angela. It's so like weird. You just never know who you're going to meet. You just never know who is growing through the same things, especially with birth mothers. I have three mothers. And I did want to share this with you as a glimmer of hope from me to you, is that it wasn't until my birth mother had two tragic losses of her firstborn sons, of her two sons, my brothers. And one day she just turned around we were at the service, because when you said funerals, that was a trigger, but not a bad trigger. It just made me remember. She turned around and she's 93. And I have a sister born on the same day as my birthday, right? And I was the only one she didn't keep out of 8. You understand what I'm saying? So long time ago, but that's a whole nother story. But long story short, she turned around to me at the funeral, and this was 4 years ago, this year, to this date. And she turned around, she said, "I'm sorry." Like, I'm sorry. And what was so freeing for me, and I want to say this to you, is that because I had already forgiven her, like that was for me. And through therapy, I stopped trying to understand her thought process, because it was too much for me. And I never would be able to get the closure for me. So I just want to say thank you. I'm not going to hold up the call. Thank you so much. I just love you to pieces.
I love you too. Dr. Eric, I see you there.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, we love you, we value and appreciate you. We're praying for you, but thank you for showing up and giving us such powerful information, transparency, sharing your heart and your passion. Thank you for just letting God lead you, because we were all blessed by it. And we thank you, we value and appreciate you. And of course, there is no place like DSU. So, we're here for you. And just, to Dr. Cheryl, as I always say, for not letting the vision go, because we all need all of this and everybody's experiencing something. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? I see Dr. Cheryl with her hand up.
Hey, I'm so glad I was able to jump in. First of all, I was exhausted last night, but my mind was racing 100 miles per hour about the launch. So I didn't end up, I don't think I fell asleep till like 3 a.m. So I wasn't planning on being on this call, but I think I was meant to be on this call. But thank you so much as well. Like Michelle and Dr. Eric mentioned, what I love most about it was that you didn't just give us content. You didn't just give us content, you gave us context. And you gave us real life examples of how we can implement these things through your own experience. And it was even beautiful, if I can just speak frankly, it was beautiful to kind of see and watch you fumble through it, because that shows growth. And you could tell that you took your time to articulate what you wanted to articulate. You didn't do a lot of ums and ahs. You just slow down a little bit, expressed it, found the right words, expressed. So it was just such a beautiful demonstration of growth in the speaker industry, because you don't always have the right words. And I don't know if any of you have experienced that. It's not always, every word is not always scripted. Your content might be scripted, but the way that you're going to pull the story in might not be quite scripted. And you delivered it so beautifully. And I even had conflict with a family member more recently, and I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. And a lot of the things that you mentioned, for me, a big part of it was stepping back and creating some space between myself and that family member, because every time we addressed it head on, it was like this. And that wasn't working. And that was robbing me of my peace. And I'm 50 now. Something about 50. You just be like, look, let me tell you something. What you ain't going to do, what's not going to happen at 50 is you are not going to come and rob me of my peace. I really feel that way. And I'm known in the family as I'm the giver. If anybody needs anything, they come to me. All that. I typically put everybody before me, but this time it was just different. And I'm like, I'm going to step back. I'm not gonna pick up the phone when you call, because I already know you ain't calling to talk about nothing happy. Because you don't call me to talk about nothing happy. You call to talk about some mess. And I was like, I just can't continue this cycle. And anybody who knows me, like in my personal life, anything, I'm not, as much as I love speaking on stage, that it's a space where I enjoy talking and speaking. But when in my private life, my personal life, where there's a lot of conflict, I just am not the person that's gonna keep going and on. Y'all know how some people on and they go on and they on and they still talking. Girl, we didn't talk this thing, you know. So for me, I find that solitude sometimes, pulling back, quiet and space sometimes is what's needed. And then once you kind of re-emerge into the situation or the relationship, then the boundaries are needed. But I feel like the time and space is what shakes people up. Yes. And lets them know you've overstepped a boundary. And you don't get to just get me back very easily. You've got to work back. We got to work back to that relationship, perhaps, that we previously had. So everything you said just really, it touched me. It moved me. It resonated with me, because it's something that I've gone through recently, and it was just spot on. And I love also how you connected it to the AIR method with that kind of closing that you gave us for today's presentation. So thank you. Great job. Thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. It was just beautifully done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cheryl. Mrs. O, I see you, ma'am.
Kudos. Excellent. You almost had me in tears. We had a private conversation yesterday, so I'm not going to go into that. But the main thing I wanted to say was, as a speaker, and all of us always learning and growing, it never stops. I appreciate that you could speak and intertwine the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when you got to the ugly part, which was hard for me just listening to you, you didn't do the ugly cry. You didn't cry. I noticed you pulled back, and like Dr. Cheryl said, you slowed up. I could hear it in your voice, but it wasn't there. That part I thought was priceless, because when you're on stage and you're trying to talk, we've had those lessons. You don't want to do the sniveling and the snotting and the somebody bring her a tissue sort of thing. And you did that today with grace and courage. And I just want to let you know, I truly, truly appreciated that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mrs. O. I appreciate you all for coming into my session. Did anybody else have anything to say?
It was very much, I know you weren't at the event yesterday, but Olympia was there and a few other people here were there. But it was almost very similar to when my husband came on stage yesterday. My husband does not do public speaking. He does not want to be in the front. No way, no how, no nothing.
Yes.
So he was kind of forced to do that yesterday. But if you notice, there was kind of a moment where he got a little choked up, and you could feel the room shift, and you could feel everybody's love kind of pouring to him without the words being spoken. I feel like that's what we experienced today with you. Like we could hear the kind of choking in your voice, which said that this was something that was real. It wasn't a made up story. It was something you're really experiencing. And there is a beauty in that. And there's a deeper engagement in that with the audience, because you just took your time and you didn't abandon it. You didn't abandon telling the story because you were a little choked up, or perhaps the words weren't there exactly as you wanted. You just took your time. And so it impacted us emotionally because we could feel the emotion, even though we don't know the whole story. We just know the parts that you're telling us. But it was such a great, everybody needs to come back and watch this session so that they can see what it means to give the audience your heart. And even when it's not perfect, it's coming out perfectly to us because it says that you're human. And there's so much power in that with the audience to show that you're human. Because, people will come up to me all, like even last night, you're so well spoken. That's great. That's great. You know what I'm saying? It's a compliment, but it's not really a compliment. A compliment is, oh my God, I felt your heart. That's a compliment for a speaker. Saying that I'm well spoken, that's good. That's cute. But for me nowadays, it's about a deeper engagement where there's something I said that hit your heartstrings, which that happened too last night. But I'm trying to give you like the differences. And that's what we really experienced with you today was you gave us the content. The content was good, but it wasn't until you got to those stories that the content hit. It was almost like you just reading content. And that was a great example because that all of us can see that now. We can see what that looks like. Okay, I'm giving you content, then I'm giving you my heart. And when you gave us your heart, the whole session shifted. This entire session was a different training session once you start telling the stories. So again, kudos is all I can say.
Thank you so much, you all. Yay. If nobody else has anything to say, I will let you all go to enjoy your afternoon.
Now come off of mute and give her love.
Yay.
And come on
Whoop, whoop, whoop,
camera
whoop.
so I can take a quick picture.
Great job.
Thank
Great
you
job.
so much.
Amazing.
Awesome.
If you're
Amazing.
off camera,
Awesome.
so I can
Thank you
get a
for the
picture,
presentation.
so I can document that you were here today. All right. Thank you, Miss Angela.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Yes, at 8 p.m. Dr. Jonas with the bonus.
Dr. Jonas with the bonus.
Hi, Kimberly. Good to see your face.
Yes. Hi, Dinah. She said
hi.
I'll put that pronunciation
Dinah.
up there. Dinah. I love it.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.